Hey everybody, this is Loli Jane, Animal Communicator and Energy Healer from animals-speak.com and mindbodyspiritworkshops.com. And you're listening to the Loli Jane Animal Communication Podcast, the show that promises to open your mind and heart to the amazing world of animal communication, energy healing, and what I like to call interspecies therapy. Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I'll be talking about why your pets leave home and what to do about it. And if your animal has ever run away, this episode is for you. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a certified international professional animal communicator and pranic energy healer. I offer remote and in-person animal communication, whether they are alive or in spirit. I also offer pranic healing for trauma, injuries, pain, illness, disease, and behavioral and emotional issues for both humans and animals. For the humans, I can also provide spiritual guidance by channeling your angels and guides and even do a past life regression. And if you've ever wanted to become an animal communicator, I teach animal communicator training workshops and provide one-on-one mentoring. Check out my website for workshop schedules at animalspeak.com or animals-speak.com or at mindbodyspiritworkshops.com. Now let's see what animals have shared with me on why they leave home. As an animal communicator, I work on a lot of lost animal cases where people are desperate, looking for their animals. People have done all the standard things you should do, like putting up posters, post on social media sites, contacting the vets, microchip companies, local animal shelters, you name it. But they haven't had any luck, and this is usually when they contact me, and they're really, really very, anxious and desperate. And the first thing I do when I check in with the animal after calming everybody down is to find out first if they're still alive. This is really important, and I do that multiple ways. I ask them, I double check, I feel for a heartbeat, I check their energy, all of that stuff. Then they tell me specific reasons why they left home and why they don't necessarily want to come back, at least right away. Most animals don't intend on staying away forever, but they have their own reasons for leaving home. They're all different reasons. So let's explore some of the reasons. So some animals have shared with me that they need to feel freedom, that they want to feel independence without being cooped up all day inside. And I know we can understand this. We wouldn't want to feel that way either. And then other times, sometimes they just want to commune with nature. And this is especially true for animals that don't get to go outside that much, where they have no access to the outside world. And then other animals have shared with me that they want to socialize with their own species, for instance, a local cat colony. And although our animals love us immensely, they're deeply committed to us, but at the same time, your animals, were not bred to be confined indoors. And they've shared with me that sometimes they want to feel wild and free again, just like we do. And this is especially true for animals and pets that started out feral. So if you've adopted an animal that was feral, they always want to return to go outside because they know what it was like. And they also have really good instincts. So those are usually the ones that do really well outside, being lost. So you don't have to worry about them as much. Clients' animals I've talked to ask that you trust them enough to let them return in their own time. And I know this probably makes you cringe, but we can also remind them to, look both ways before crossing the street, avoiding traffic. And I definitely do this in my session. And I say it that way because you can't say don't You can't tell an animal what you don't want. So you don't want to say, don't jump into traffic. You want to say, look both ways before crossing the street. Make sure it's clear. So some animals, like indoor or outdoor cats, wander around the neighborhood and befriend many of your neighbors on a daily basis. Let me tell you a fascinating story that happened to me. So this story is about a cat named Bubby. So I had a cat friend like this, and he became a good friend of mine. Like, he befriended me when I lived in Hawaii. He lived a couple of blocks away from me, and he first appeared at my back deck. And I thought he was lost, so I called the number on the caller immediately. And surprisingly, they didn't get back with me right away, which I thought that was a little odd. And when they finally got back to me, maybe a day later, they were very casual about the whole thing and about him being in my yard as if it happened all the time. So his human said to me, don't feed him. But she never came to get him, which I thought was very odd. So then the next time he came around, I called them again, and I told them that Bubby was visiting me again. And they told me a story that Bubby was actually raised in Thailand, and he wasn't restricted to one house. So he used to go around visiting many houses and many neighbors and befriending many humans. And did I also mention that Bubby could sit upright on a moped seat while his person was driving him around? That is right. I witnessed this. I could not believe it. So that explained a lot of his behavior. And after this, Bubby's visits became more frequent to the point that I actually had a cat, but I didn't necessarily have to take care of him, which was awesome. So, per the request of his human family, I never ever fed him. She said he would return during dinner time for food with them. And of course, since I was able to talk to animals, Bubby and I developed a really deep bond and routine visits. It was awesome. At the time, I was working out of my house, and he would come in during the afternoon when I would exercise outside, and I would work out on weights, and he would sit there and just lie there and watch me every single day. So he would show up in the afternoon. Then he started showing up at night to watch movies with me every single night. And he started showing up promptly at dawn when the sun would come up. He would sneak in through my back porch, and he would literally climb into bed with me and snuggle. So it was like, it was uncanny. It wasn't a typical relationship with an animal. It was not even my animal. It was so strange. So we developed this amazing friendship and deep bond. And of course, I'm communicating with him and I can talk to him. I think he loved that. And I wonder, was he doing this with all the neighbors? I hope not. He would be cheating on me. Then his human family started to get concerned because they were seeing less and less and less of him. And they thought he was coming around because I was feeding him. They swore I was feeding him, and I assured them many times over, no, I'm not feeding him at all. And I explained to them that I can communicate with animals and that Bubby and I would talk to each other. And, of course, they didn't believe me. They didn't believe in animal communication, and they wouldn't even listen. So Bubby taught me a lot of lessons about animal intelligence and independence. And animals want to have a choice of how they live and their lifestyle just like we do. So I finally left Hawaii, and I miss Bubby dearly. And I still connect with him once in a while and check on him, and he's doing fine. Next, let's talk about sanctuary space. So some other animals have shared with me that they're not getting their needs met at home. And sometimes there's too much chaos in the house, or too many animals, or a lot of people under one roof. And clients' animals have asked for their own sanctuary space, or some kind of area in the house, where they can just be. No noise, no chaos, and no other animals. So what to do about this? I know it's kind of a hard request, especially in a small space, if you have a small area, that you can give them of their own. You don't have to give them a whole room. It can be anything. It can be a closet, a patio, a catio for cats. You can build them a fort down low for dogs, like under a coffee table with a rug and a tablecloth over the table. So even if you have a small space, you can get creative. So just think like you're building a fort for a child. So tablecloth over the table. And for cats, you want something, of course, high up. They like climbing. And if you can do a catwalk, or different cat condos, even better. If you can actually install a catwalk up by the ceiling, that's their favorite. But not everybody can do that, of course. Another idea is a pop-up tent used for kids or beaches. And I use this with my own dog, and it works really well. And you can just pop up a tent in a certain room and just close the door and then put it away when you need to. That's kind of an easy solution. It gives them a feeling of having their own space. Or even a decorated large crate so it doesn't feel like confinement. You can even leave the door open. And a lack of space does not mean a lack of creativity. So get creative with this. In these areas, you can put their food, their water bowls, their toys, their bedding, their blankets, their stuffies, and you can even make it like a spa-like space with relaxing music, essential oils, safe for your particular animal, and low light or natural lighting from the windows, which they always love. So next, let's talk about moving to a new home. So many clients that I've had moved to new homes, and all of a sudden they found that their animals wandered out of the new house and did not return, ever. And in those cases, the animals shared with me that, first of all, they were not told that they were moving. They were not consulted and not given a choice, and that they miss their old animal friends around the old neighborhood, and they don't know the other new animals around the house. They're not familiar with, if it's a cat, a new cat colony, or dogs, or whatever. So a lot of animals have told me this, like they were not given a choice. Not that it's going to make a difference, because when you have to move, you have to move. But that's a really, really good time to do an animal communication session. I love it when clients call me before they take a trip or before they're going to do a major move or something major that's going to happen in the house, like construction or something. That way I can warn your animals what's going to go on so they're not so alarmed. And especially when they move. So many animals, just leave the house when they move. I've heard so many stories of this, and so many clients have come to me. So don't let that happen. Call me before you make the move, and I can talk to your animal. So, of course, this is very important for cats, getting to know the lay of the land, because that's how they are, and cat colonies around the new house. Not so much for dogs, but for cats especially. So what can you do about it? So before moving, tell your animal. You can even, obviously it works better if I'm doing telepathic communication with them. But if you don't, at least tell your animal. You can tell them out loud or just send thoughts to them. Before moving, tell them what your plans are, or whether you're going to verbalize it or not. Or you can, whatever your plans, details, tell them everything as if you're talking to a human, okay? And show them a little respect that way. That way they will feel understood, respected. They'll understand what change is going to take place. And you can even talk to them about the way they're going to move. Like, are they going to be flown somewhere? Are they going to be driven somewhere? And that is really extremely helpful when you do that. In the same sense, it's important to tell your animals that you're going away on a trip, what you're going to be doing. And you can send them images. Like, for instance, if you're going to a beach to relax, you can send them an image of you laying on a beach sipping a pina colada. Or if you're going hiking in the mountains, you can send them an image of hiking in the mountains. Tell them when you're going and when you'll be back and who is going to take care of them. And this is, of course, another good time to book an animal communication session, so I can give them the exact details. Before I became an animal communicator, I went on a trip. I had someone watch my cat, and I came back, and I found out that my cat ran away, and she never, ever came back. And I cannot help but think, had I known what I know now, or if somebody told me this in a podcast, maybe things would have been different. So I, for sure, want to impart that knowledge onto you. So be sure to do that if you're leaving for any period of time, okay? So the next thing gets kind of spiritual here. So we're going to talk about walk-ins. So other animals that have left home shared with me that they left home because they were going to go transition. In other words, they were going to pass. But they wanted to do it alone to not have the family, watch them, see them go through this. And this is true for cats. Typically, dogs don't run when they're going to pass. They want to be around you. Cats do not. Cats want to hide. And other animals as well want to do that. And they want to leave. So a cat shared with me that they left home because they would be transitioning. And while I was talking to the animal, I could feel them leaving their body during the conversation. And I was still semi-talking to the soul, but it was crossing over as I was talking to the animal. And what the cat didn't share with me was that another soul was going to come in and to take over the same body and to come home to the person. And that is exactly what happened. The whole thing took about 2 weeks, and the cat did not return for 2 whole weeks. And I reported to the person that their cat had passed, and the cat returned 2 weeks later with the same body but a different soul. And what that person was going to find in the next couple of weeks is that their animal is going to have a huge personality change. I mean, they're going to have some of the same stuff, but it's a different soul entirely. So they were going to find that this is not their cat. Physically looks like their cat, not their cat. So this is what we call a walk-in. And if you go find I don't have it in front of me, but if you go find the episode about soul animals and reincarnation, and also about talking to animals in spirit, I talk about walk-ins in detail. So the next thing that animals that have left home have shared with me is that there is some kind of abuse or neglect in the home. So they may run away in a very confused state, having been beaten or neglected, and you can be sure they will not return to this original home. But just like karmic patterns of humans, they are put back into the system. Say the system picks them up, and they're in a facility, and they're rehomed into yet another abusive situation. It's very similar to some repeated karmic patterns. I'm not saying this happens all the time, but that often happens. Sometimes when I talk to animals that have had a lot of trauma and abuse, it's kind of a repeated pattern. It's kind of a lesson that they chose to work on for themselves, or chose to work on with you in your family. So that's, we don't want to hear about animals being abused, but, you have to think about that sometimes when they've left home. So how can animal communication help? So for all of these different types of scenarios, I can help as an animal communicator by, of course, talking directly to the animal to find out why they left home, to find out if they're still alive in their physical body, or if they're injured, or if they're getting food or water, whether they're off on an adventure or they have a very specific reason, and most importantly, what they need from their person to want to return home. This is the ultimate question. What do you need from your person to want to come back? And if they don't wish to come back, would they like to live outside or to be rehomed in a different family or different person for many reasons? So that brings us to the end of this great episode, and I hope you enjoyed this informative episode, understanding why your pets leave home and what to do about it. Book your animal communication session now and check out my upcoming workshops or classes on animal communication and mind, body, spirit. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain, as well as opening your mind, heart, and spirit to your deep connection with your beloved animals. For more information, please visit my website at animals-speak.com or animalsspeak.com or Loli Jane animalcommunication.com or mindbodyspiritworkshops.com. And please subscribe to my monthly newsletter for specials, classes, workshops, events, and the latest podcasts. You can listen to my podcast called Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing on Apple, iHeart, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, YouTube, Buzzsprout, etc. Join us next week for episode 43 on Do Pets Choose Their Caretakers? And if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, like, and rate us. And as always, love and gratitude for listening to the Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing Podcast. This is Loli Jane. This podcast was created, produced, recorded, researched, and edited by Loli Jane, and it's a product of Loli Jane Animal Communication and Healing.